Hey, Scott from aristocob.com here.
And Seth from Skype.
And together, the three of us, and that includes you, we are Mark Woodman's Breakfast Club. So welcome. Good morning, boy.
Good morning, Homer. How you doing?
And good morning to the rest of you. I'm doing well. I am in Lost Wages this week.
Nice.
And you look like you are in your dining room.
Pajamas. Yeah, I am. I am in my dining room. I'm going to try my best not to kick my table and other things make the camera jittery.
My phone is suction cup to the flat screen TV in my room.
Nice.
So,
janky. I like it.
Some jiggling can happen on this end too.
Yeah. So any technical difficulties, and we are not starting over. We've been working for about an hour now trying to get everything to work properly. So if it doesn't, sorry. We'll see you guys next week. Just want to say that up front.
I suppose if none of the audio works, you can feel free to overdub me if you like.
Oh, it's just going to be half an hour of Benny Hill.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm in Vegas. I wrapped up in Chicago last Friday, flew home, had Saturday, actually not even at home, took your sister's kids out to Boone, North Carolina. So that's in the mountains, in the Smoky Mountains. And
of Appalachian State University.
That's right. Did a couple things out there and then flew here to Vegas on Sunday. So it was just, as typical, a whirlwind with no time to do laundry. So anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit since
So you're wearing your undies inside out?
Oh, no, I'm beyond that.
Ooh.
I'm beyond that. So,
Commando.
Anyway, I was going to tell you, since we haven't had a chance to talk really about what we ended up doing on Saturday. So, my bride, your mother, Jandy, to the rest of you, or Mrs. Aristocob.
I know her. We go way back.
Or Joe, as we call her in our family. We took Dana's kids, her three, and they had spent the night with us on Friday. And then Saturday, we drove out west into the mountains. And the first thing we did was we went to one of those gem mining places. Basically it's a scam, but still, you go in and you purchase buckets of gravel, of dirt, and you shovel that gravel into screens that you run in some running water and you sift through it. And after a quick little lesson on what you're looking for, the kids start sifting and digging and looking for precious stones. Now, one thing that maybe people don't know is that in North Carolina, it's the only state in the United States where you can find gem quality emeralds. But I don't think that's where these come from. No. I think that these all come from China.
Yeah. And if you pay more for your bucket of gravel, you're guaranteed to get prettier rocks.
That's right. Rocks. That's right. Now, they had a $15 bucket, which was really too small. And then they had a $30 bucket that was about twice the size of the 15. So having two grandkids that were going to participate in this, I thought, okay, I'm going to buy two $15 buckets. And as I'm having this conversation, the guy behind the counter is listening. He said, just so you know, the stones that are in the $30 bucket are larger than the stones in the 15. So you're still spending $30, but you're going to get better rocks, larger rocks.
Right.
So we did that, and it was good because the 6-year-old Smuckers was far more interested in sifting than his little brother BG.
Right.
And the thing is too, they also layer those stones in the bucket with the best stuff near the bottom.
Yeah.
So the bigger, more obviously beautiful rocks were at the bottom, and you're kind of your reward of continuing on goes up. And
right.
So anyway, that was fun. The kids enjoyed it.
You mean it's rigged?
It's seeded. It's sort of like in the old days with the prospectors, where they would go out and you might say rig. They go out and plant some precious stones or gold in property that they're then going to sell you or deed to you. It's very much like that. And then, so when it's done, they sift through all the rocks and they're looking for these various rocks, and you sort them inside. You're doing this outside under kind of undercover, but you're getting a sunburn the whole time. It's one of those corrugated fiberglass roofs that doesn't block any UV.
Mm-hmm.
So in the 45 minutes or so that it took for us to sift through all this, everybody's faces, foreheads, arms were sunburned already.
Oh, man.
We went inside, and they then laid out, they took all of the stones, and they laid them all out, and they've done this 1,000 times. So as they're pulling them out of the bag that they were sorted into, they're laying them out in a very specific order on a table, and then they had samples of polished versions of the stones that you found, right? So they went through, and there was like, I think 10 of the 12 types of stones were present in both of the kids' collections, which makes me think there were probably 2 things that they missed. Because I would think that they would put a little bit of everything in there. And as they went through them, she again took a sapphire and laid that down next to the sapphire, and took the polished faceted emerald and laid that down next to the emeralds, and so on. And she basically started at the least valuable, the garnet, and then worked her way up to the most valuable. In the case of Smucker's, it was sapphire and emerald. And the emerald that he got was about, 2 inches long and maybe 1 inch square. And then one of the things that they can do for you is they offer services where they can polish them, they can facet them, they can put them in a mount for you, which I'm sure they don't. I'm sure that you leave, and 3 weeks later they send you one that they bought in China. That is of equal value to the one you found, and the one you found goes back in a bucket. I'm totally convinced of that.
Yeah.
It's like I almost want to say, look, let's don't play any games. Just give me the one that you're going to send me in 3 weeks. The kids had a ball. Yeah. I got to say, it was a lot of fun. It was worth the $30, and it was neat for them. And then from there, we went on to the town of Boone. Oh, and that's after going to the old country store there, Mast General Store, and buying bulk candy that none of us needed, and that was fun.
It's the good stuff.
But then the point of the trip in the first place was my grandson Smuckers has started to get a little bit obsessed with the Beach Boys. Every time he gets in my wife's car, he insists that she turn on the CD in her 6 CD selection there, the best of the Bee Gees, the best of the Beach Boys. And he really enjoys listening to the Beach Boys. And whenever he's at the house, he'll ask me, or I will voluntarily pull up some videos on YouTube of the Beach Boys, and we'll watch those and talk about a little about the evolution of the Beach Boys. He knows Mike Love by name and by sight, and knows everything about the original members. So I Googled it one day and saw that they were going to be in North Carolina one time in the entire balance of the year 2015. What are you smiling at, boy?
I saw somebody interview Stevie Wonder the other day, and the question was, how difficult has it been to overcome some of the challenges of being blind? And he said, well, being blind is hard, but things could be worse. At least I'm not black. Stevie Wonder. So when he said he knows him by sight,
that made you smile.
Stevie Wonder, yeah.
So anyway, I searched and found that they were going to be in North Carolina one time. It happened to be in that day that I was going to be home. So I bought 2 tickets after discussing it with Jandy, and she didn't care enough to spend $50 more on her ticket. She knew she was going to be watching the 2 younger kids that day, all the kids, and so she said, "Look, I'll just drive around the mountains with BG and with Aria. You go to the concert." So Smuckers and I went to the concert. Now, he didn't know any of this was happening, and we told him that we would give him hints to what our plan was for the day. And so as we're driving, he would say, "So tell me a hint." And I'd say, "Okay." All the while we're listening to the best of the Beach Boys in the car. So I'd start to talk, and I'd hit the volume button up on the radio and crank up the Beach Boys. So after this had happened several times, it's like, okay, why is it every time I ask for a hit, you turn up the Beach Boys? And it wasn't until we were sitting in Cracker Barrel having lunch, and I recorded this on my phone. Actually, I recorded on Jandy's phone, and explained to him what I was doing when I was turning up the radio, and then handed him the tickets. And so he had this look on his face like, you got to be kidding me. So we go to the concert, and it was at Appalachian State University in their basketball stadium, holds a couple thousand people. And what was funny is those videos that I had shown Smuckers from the 1960s, the ladies that were dancing in their swimsuits and stuff, I think those were the same people in the audience. Exact same people. They didn't have the swimsuits on, but they were some of the same hairdos that I don't think had changed in 50 years. And a lot more walkers and wheelchairs than were in those original original videos.
Well, that's like our observation about the Brian Wilson movie. You know, that the only people absolutely. That were there were people that knew the music and knew who Brian Wilson is.
Yeah, well, and right, his original audience, that was on way too late for them to be up. That's right. I think.
That's right.
So
I'm surprised that their concert wasn't at brunch at a cafeteria.
So they came out on stage, and you had a 5-piece band that was backing up 2 members. One of them was Mike Love, so one of the original founding members, and the other one was Bruce Johnston. And Bruce was not an original member, but he replaced Brian Wilson when Brian stopped touring. So still an early member, and when he was brought on to sing whatever lead parts Brian sang. And they did a fine job. But what I do have to say, that the 5-piece backup band almost didn't need the original members. They were really good. Yeah. One of which, the drummer, is John Cowsill from the group the Cowsills. He's from the group that the Partridge Family was based on. He and his brothers, little sister, and mom had a band, and they had, I want to say, 3 hits. If you don't remember, one of them was called Rain in the Park and Other Things, or Rain the Park and Other Things, which everyone remembers as the Flower Girl song. And it was a famous song that was played. That's the one. It was played in Dumb and Dumber during kind of a dream sequence. And another one that was a big hit for them was Indian Lake. And then the last one that I know was a big hit was the theme song from the movie Hair. They also sang Love American Style, the original theme to the first year of that show, which you probably don't remember, but out of Love American Style, which every week was 2 different, completely different short stories that they would play. And one of those was called Happy Days and became Happy Days. So anyway, John Cowsill is fantastic. He sang lead on about 20% of the songs. And then there was one moment where they came out and did a song in a cappella. And I did record that, so maybe we can put it into the video right here.
Doubt it. Copyright.
Probably so.
And editing.
Yeah, okay.
Where can people see that?
Tell you what, I'll go ahead and load it up onto my channel as a private video, and we'll go ahead and link to it in the doobly-doo. Okay. How about that?
Yeah, as tends to be the case, more often than either of us would like, this is being recorded 8 hours before it needs to be uploaded, and still needs to go through 3 renderings and an edit process before and upload to YouTube. That's not going to happen tonight. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. So I'll just upload it directly to probably the Aristocob channel, but I'll make it private. Otherwise, YouTube will snag it and take the audio off of it and all that. So
and they'll take all of your.
Yeah, I know. Everything. We'll just hide it away, and I'll share it with you in the description below. All right.
It'll be our
So
secret.
anyway, so the concert's like 2 songs in, and Smuckers looks over at me, and he has this real serious look on his face, and he says, "Can we go?" Well, I'm sorry, what? Can we leave now? You want to leave now? Yeah. Well, why? He says, "This isn't fun." It isn't fun. Okay. Good to know. Why isn't it fun? And he goes on to tell me, he said, "Well, this isn't what I expected." Well, what did you expect? He said, "I thought there'd be sand and beach balls and everything he had seen on videos on YouTube, he thought was going to be the experience." And so we had a quick little talk about how, look, this is what it is. These are old guys. These are their last days of touring. This is a historical event. And while it may not be fun in the sense that you expected,
and you will like it.
No, just it's just different. I said, imagine that you're listening to this on my iPad. Yeah. And by the end of the show, he was actually having a good time, and standing up and dancing and singing with a big smile on his face. So it got better. But it's funny because he didn't know it was going to happen. But once he heard that we were going, he had imagined what the thing was going to be, and it was not at all. He's thinking bounce rooms and lots of young people in bikinis. I was a little disappointed in that myself.
Yeah. that makes me think of Louis C.K. on, I think, Conan one time. One of the famous clips of his. He's talking about how quickly we become disenfranchised with things. How quick we are to expect something that just moments ago we didn't even know existed. And he tells a story of being on an airplane for the very first time. They were introducing Wi-Fi on the plane, and everyone was it was amazing. You can connect to the internet, you can watch YouTube videos, you can do all of this stuff. And he tells a story about how halfway through the flight it stops working, and they come out and they apologize. They say, we're so sorry. Something's gone down with our system. It looks like we're not going to be able to connect for the rest of the flight. And some guy sitting in the plane, he just overhears him say, "This is bullshit." And he's like, "What have you contributed to this world?" that I said, "Is this not amazing? We're sitting in a metal box in the air, and you're taking a trip that if you had to take 100 years ago, you would have died of dysentery because it would have taken you. It would have taken you a month, and it's taking you 4 hours. And this thing that you didn't
and because
know existed,
you can't play Candy Crush on YouTube or on Facebook.
Internet in the sky is a thing that you didn't know existed 2 hours ago, and yet now, it's just how quickly we become. The illusion wears off, and we become entitled. And
true,
it's an excellent clip. But
so, as far as the concert is concerned, it was really very good. It was the last time I saw them in concert. I swore would be the last time I see them in concert because Mike Love was so nasally and so out of tune, and either he was dealing with a cold or something on that previous event, and he just couldn't sing well, or they've added auto-tune. Yeah. But he was much better. And I think also a big part of it was he was singing in a much lower register, right? They had their lead guitarist was singing the high parts on most of the songs on this one. So Mike wasn't having to do that too much. So, he was more down in that ba dip 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 range, that he sang on some of their earlier work. So anyway, it was a great show. I would absolutely do it again. But as I told Smuckers, I mean, these dudes are mid-70s now. And, who knows how long it's going to last.
Yeah.
But that made me think. I wanted to ask you, and also thinking for myself, what's the best concert you've ever been to?
Um, best is difficult. Difficult question to answer
Yes.
because best in what context? I've been to some pretty significant concerts. I saw the Newsboys when they were doing their Love Liberty Disco tour, and they set up a tent in the parking lot of a stadium. So you're standing outside, and
Right.
their stage, they had the uprights for the stage also hosted the lighting crew. I mean, it was a cool experience.
That wasn't stepping up to the microphone.
No, I saw them stepping up to the microphone in an auditorium or at a convention, and they had giant microphones hanging from the sky. No, you weren't with me for Love Liberty Disco. That was a youth
No.
trip. That was at the Charlotte Hornets arena in the parking lot of it. Did see them stepping up to the microphone. I saw DC Talk a couple of times. That was awesome. That was just an awesome concert. They were my favorite band, and they seen them a couple of times, and that was just a cool experience.
Yeah.
I think that seeing, I've seen Reliant K a whole bunch of times, and everything from dive bars to outdoor concerts to big concert venues. They're always good. But as far as best, one of the ones that is perhaps most significant, not because of the concert necessarily, but because of the long-reaching ramifications. I was the first to see Last Tuesday.
That's true.
And got one of their CDs, and that's a band that ended up just through random happenstance ended up becoming friends of our family, and they would stay at our house when they were touring and they were in town. So I've seen them play church venues, play larger venues. They were at a big rock concert when I first saw them. So, I don't know that was necessarily the best concert, but it was a significant concert.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And then, one of the ones I really remember was when we went to Ichthus, which is a big Christian concert, and seeing David Crowder play. He's a worship artist, and it was a really, really powerful experience to have. How many people? 50,000 people standing in a field, worshiping
Tens of thousands.
and jumping,
Yeah.
and it was just very, very cool to be in that place at that time. So, best is
Yeah,
is
I
hard to
remember
say.
that because that was one of those situations where we both had the same feeling where David Crowder was leading the worship, and it was a pretty amazing, moving, fun, exciting moment. And then the headline pastor came out and felt the need to suddenly do something churchy
To kill the mood.
and just killed the mood,
Yeah.
just brought it down.
Yeah.
And the promoters of the show figured that out, and they brought David back on stage
Yeah.
after 10 minutes of this guy throwing a wet blanket on the
Yeah.
program. It's funny, 20 years earlier, I'm just trying to remember the date, it was at least 20 years earlier, maybe more, would have been my most significant concert, and that was also at Ichthus.
Really?
So Ichthus, for those of you who don't know, is no longer in existence, but it was basically
not?
no, they stopped.
When?
They stopped. But well, it's my understanding that they stopped a couple years back.
Bummer.
Feel free to Google that.
I'm going to.
It was a Christian Woodstock type of event where there's camping out in the fields and all these live bands performing out in the open. And
It just happened July
we went there
8th,
with all.
2015. Still going.
Oh, and then I apologize for the misinformation, and now I'm wishing we were there.
Lexington, Kentucky.
Why did I hear? Well, it was always in Wilmore, so they've moved it.
Newsboys, Matthew West, or Reliant K.
Wow. But it was an awful
Sorry.
experience the year I'm remembering, and it rained the entire time. You know what? It was prior to your birth, so it was over 30 years ago. And it was just awful, awful.
So,
We took a whole bunch of kids from our youth group, my wife and I at the time, and it was just terrible. And the bands would come out and try to perform, but they were under cover. But it was just raining. It was pouring down, so you're under a plastic tarp at best. And people were getting sick, and the mud was everywhere. And we had somebody from our youth group in a wheelchair. And the entire weekend, Dave Nichols and I drug her around in the wheelchair in the mud as it got deeper and deeper and deeper. And the most memorable moment of that event was there were still thousands of people standing out on this hillside in the rain as the band Petra came out and performed. And Petra is like the grandfathers of Christian rock music. And one of the songs that they were singing, this is with their original lead singer, Greg Valtz. He starts belting out the chorus of this song that says, "Father of light, shine down on me." And the moment he hit that chorus, it stopped raining, and this beam of light came down and just shone down on the audience and on the band. The band stopped playing. I mean, it was like, what the? Everybody in the audience starts screaming. Suddenly you're feeling the warmth of the sun, and again, it wasn't raining for all of 30 seconds. And then the clouds poured back in. And for the entire 3-day weekend, it was the only moment where it wasn't at least drizzling and that the sun was shining. It was right, could be coincidental, right during that moment, that line in the song. And so, yeah, pretty memorable event, memorable moment, and a really good band. Seen a lot of bands, a lot of concerts. In recent years, one of the best performances happened with an opening band for a band that was one of the worst performances I had seen. The opening band was Kiss, and the headliner was Aerosmith. And Aerosmith was awful, and Kiss was fantastic.
Yeah.
And that part of that also had to do with my expectations of that. So
that Striper concert we went to for Father's Day.
A couple great Striper concerts.
A couple years ago. Stephen Curtis Chapman's always good in town. Or not Stephen Curtis Chapman. Phil Keaggy, I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Seen the Beach Boys a couple times, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons several times, going back to the 1980s.
One of the coolest concerts that I've been to recently was only a year or two ago. It was at Cat's Cradle in Chapel Hill, and we went to see Isley. And the venue had just redone a whole bunch of stuff. The two opening bands played, and after they played during the intermission, they started having problems with their fire alarm, and we kept going outside, and we waited outside and waited, and they would just get things started, and the fire alarm would go off again and again. And so we collectively, I mean, the band was kind of hanging outside, and we kind of just everybody collectively said, do like an acoustic set. So they went outside, in the parking lot, with everybody gathered around, people sitting up on semi-truck drop-offs in the back lot, all around. And I mean, I was 5 feet away recording songs and being right there. And they had a keyboard. I think they had a keyboard and a guitar, no microphones. It was cool.
Now that reminds me of the Petra concert we went to one year. We took a whole bunch of youth kids over to Columbus from Dayton, so it was already an hour plus trip over. Mm-hmm. And we got there, and there were no tickets sold in advance. It was festival seating. We show up at the Ohio Theater in Columbus, and they had sold out. And so we're standing out front trying to figure out, well, what do we do? I mean, I guess we get back in the buses and head back to Dayton. When the band's manager came out and said, hey, folks, if you'll stick around till 10 o'clock, the band will do a second performance.
Wow.
So then we hit the payphones, and all the kids had to call their parents, and all of them had to get permission. And if there was even one that couldn't stay, we all had to head back home. And every single parent said, yeah, that's cool. And so Petra comes out on stage at 10 o'clock. They were soaking wet because they had just done a couple-hour concert. And we've here, all right, this is great. This is nice. We're not going to complain if they're holding back. We're not going to complain if it's a short show. And it went till like 12:30 that night, and they gave a rip-roaring concert. It was fantastic. So anyway, very memorable. You know what? One band I would love to see, and I found out I just missed them. I'd love to go see Rush in concert, and that's a band from Canada that really only in the last couple of years I've even begun to even pay attention to, and realize I know several of their songs, but I've watched a couple documentaries. Tom Sawyer. Yep. Thank you, Cartman, for that rendition. Anyway, how about you? Are there any bands that you'd love to see? I mean, you can't bring back the Beatles, but you know, any that you would like that are still touring?
Or can't I? I don't know. I've gotten old. No. Thanks to Spotify, I've been rediscovering some old music that I really loved. But thanks to Spotify, I haven't felt the need to really dive into newer music. And so, I always enjoy. I take that back. There's one band that I haven't yet seen in concert that I would really love to see. They're one of my favorites, and that's Emery. And their first album came out, I think, in 2000 or late 90s. They're a punk rock band, or indie, but with elements of screaming, but not over the top. They're one that I really, really enjoyed every album they put out, and would love to get a chance to see them in concert. I suspect that they put on a great show. So.
Now, see, I'd like to see Foo Fighters as long as you could keep Dave Grohl from talking in between songs. From talking
That's
between songs.
Look,
I know. I've seen enough of them in concert on television on YouTube that he's not going to shut up between songs. But anyway, I like their music.
No, but look,
if you could get Adam Levine to leave his shirt on, I would like to see Maroon 5.
Oh, thanks. After the leg break, and all of that, mad respect for Dave Grohl.
Yeah, well, Steve Taylor did the same thing 30 years earlier. So,
well, I wouldn't mind seeing him in concert either.
Yeah, I'd love to see them too. So, anyway, we got to wrap this up. I guess the question for the rest of you who've been so quiet through this entire session is. What concert was your favorite concert, and why? And if you could go to any concert for any band currently performing or current artist, who would it be?
Elvis.
So that's like a two-parter right there.
Yeah, 2 questions.
All right, so I doubt very seriously, boy, that you and I are going to see each other this weekend. So we may be doing this same thing again next week.
How long are you in town this weekend?
I arrive home on Saturday and leave on Sunday.
Yeah, probably not going to happen then.
Yeah, so I'm next stop for me after Vegas is, where am I going? I fly into Baltimore, rent a car, and drive to Atlantic City next week.
Sounds good.
It's crazy, man. Crazy. So, all right, guys, gals, thank you all for watching. Boy, good to see you.
Likewise.
All right. Make it a great week, guys.
Bye, guys.